You're listening to Release Your Resistance with Bex Beltran, episode 105. Welcome to Release Your Resistance. This is Bex. The only reason why any of us don't have what we want in life is because of our own resistance. Right now, I'm learning how to recognize and release my resistance, and this podcast tells you how you can release your resistance so that you can live the exact life that you want. Let's get started. Welcome back to the Release Your Resistance podcast. I'm so excited to bring another coach interview to you so that you can hear us talk about our coaching practices and theories and how we work with clients and what we have in common. And if you are here at the Release Your Resistance podcast for the first time because you found this through Melissa, welcome. I cannot wait for you to hear this interview, and hopefully you'll go back and listen to some of the other coach interviews as well as some of the solo episodes of this podcast. But getting right into today's guest, I want to introduce you to Melissa Snow. She is the coach and podcast host of Love Starts Here, and the way that we met is because of a Valentine event that she has happening later this month. So I hope you will stick around for the whole episode to hear all the details and how you can join us at this virtual event. At the end of the episode, we'll be talking about that. The other thing that I'll remind you of at the end of the episode, I am doing an all-access behind-the-scenes tour of my journal and notebook shop. So if you have an idea to create a journal or a workbook or a notebook that you would want to use either for yourself or for your clients or for your friends and family, I can show you how I've created my shop and how I've developed my notebooks and journals and hopefully inspire you to do the same. So again, stick around to the end of the episode to hear the details about that, or you can go directly to the show notes for this episode at bexb.org/Melissa. That's bexb.org/MELISSA. Let's go to the interview. Hey, Melissa, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast because I've never had a coach like you on the podcast before. And just so everyone knows, we met because you are organizing an amazing virtual Valentine's Day dinner party coming up here. And I'm lucky enough to be participating in it. So
Yes.
we're going to talk about that at the end of the episode and tell everyone how they can get tickets. But in the meantime, please introduce yourself. Who are you? What do you do and why?
Yeah, totally. So my name's Melissa Snow. I am a dating coach. I work mostly with ambitious single women who are tired of going on dead-end dates, tired of scrolling endlessly on dating apps, and ready to find the man who is their equal and have a long-term relationship with him. That's primarily what I focus on. I also have a book club that is for badass single women. We meet virtually every other week, and I host the podcast Love Starts Here.
I always love meeting fellow podcasters, and I have listened to a few of your episodes, and it's great.
Thank you so much.
What kind of books do you all read in your book club?
Yeah, so we just started about a month ago with the book club started. And right now we're reading Calling in the One by Catherine Woodward Thomas. Are you familiar with that book?
I'm not. No, I haven't heard of it.
So she's the same author that wrote Conscious Uncoupling, which became a really big deal when Gwyneth Paltrow and Chris Martin consciously uncoupled.
Yes, yes.
So she wrote this other book called Calling in the One that's more for single and dating women. And I had some, speaking of resistance, I had some resistance to it because of the title. You know, it's a little like manifesty and woo-woo for me, but the book is amazing. It's really, really good.
So to hear. And I'm so glad you brought up resistance because that was going to be one of my questions for you. And so we can use this example or any other examples that you have as well. So you mentioned here that you noticed a little resistance because of the title, because you don't find yourself interested in the woo-woo things or the manifesting things. So yeah, what did that feel like when you saw the book? you knew it was aligned with your work, but you were like, no, that's not for me? Or how did that work out for you?
Yeah, it's interesting because one of the things that I really focus on with my clients is being able to separate out the fact from the story that we tell ourselves. And so for me, when I first saw the book called Calling in the One, I tend to take a different approach to relationships than a lot of dating coaches, whereas I'm not as focused on helping you find that person. Like, that's not the goal that you need in order to be happy. I'm a lot more focused on just helping you love yourself, live your best life, because I believe when you're doing that, you will call in the one.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a lot of thoughts about the title without even really exploring the book itself, and didn't take my own advice to separate out the facts from the story, because once I really dug into the book and started looking at some of the topics and the questions and things, I realized that it's 100% in alignment with what I do. I just had this story I was telling myself based off of the title.
Yep. That happens all the time. And
Yep.
it might have even happened in the last 5 minutes with someone who's listening thinking, oh, wait, a dating coach, I'm in a relationship. Oh, wait, a book about calling in the one. I've got the one. Can you see any metaphors or any relevance from your work in this book, or just how you live your life and what you do, to someone who, like, for example, me, I'm in a long-term committed relationship. I'm not calling in anyone except for my next client, maybe, right? So can you see any way that those of us who are not exactly in your niche, how we can use your work or hear your message and apply it in our own lives?
Yeah, for sure. I also am in a relationship. I'm not calling in the one. And I always joke with my fiance when he's sitting next to me on the couch and I'm reading Calling in the One. I'm like, it takes a very secure man to be in a relationship with a woman who is reading this book. But honestly, like, I'm just really encourage everyone to just stay open. And that's one of the things that I really try to practice in my life too, because like you and I were saying before we started recording, I'm a human being. So I do have moments where I'm like, nope, I don't like her. Nope, I'm not listening to this. Nope, this isn't for me. Right. But if I remain open to these people and these experiences and what they have to teach me, I almost always find something.
Yeah.
And so for me, remaining open to what this book has to teach me, even as, you know, a 40-year-old woman who's been with the same guy for the last 10 years, I really have learned a lot from this book, just about improving my relationship with myself, cleaning up some things from my past that I didn't even know needed to clean up, and strengthening my bond with my partner in the present. And so a lot of times I think that remaining open is one of the big things that helps you overcome that resistance.
Yes, I was just about to ask that, because I'm assuming, just like you said about how sometimes you notice yourself thinking, oh, I'm not going to like it, or that's not for me, or I'm assuming that your clients probably have those thoughts about potential dating partners.
Yep.
So how does that look? How does resistance or that not remaining open show up for them, if you want to generalize?
I think it's a lot about the same things. It's about them jumping to conclusions. It's about them telling themselves stories right off the bat that aren't even true, but they sound really true. And so they believe them. You know, it's based in different things. For some women, you know, I have clients who are very quick to pick out the one thing that they don't like, even if it's something small, like I don't like his voice, or I don't like his jeans, or, you know, he says chicken parm and I can't stand it, like whatever it is. And so that's the reason that they're using for why this is never going to work out and they just need to give it up. Then I have clients who are maybe having resistance to relationships in general, because underneath that resistance, they have thoughts that they're too busy for a relationship, they're too independent for a relationship, they're too picky, and they're never going to find a guy who meets their standards. A lot of my clients believe that they can either have a successful career or a relationship, but not both. And so when they have those beliefs underlying everything, that creates a lot of resistance on the surface.
Yeah. And so how can people overcome that resistance?
You make it sound like such a simple question to answer.
Like just a 2-word answer, please.
Just do it. That's
Well,
the
there
answer.
you go. Yeah.
No, I mean, it's a process, right? It's part of it is unpacking some of those beliefs that are underneath the surface and figuring out how those beliefs have been impacting you, whether those beliefs are serving you and helping you get closer to the result that you want in your life. And then if they're not, how do you let go of those beliefs and replace them with new ones or different ones that are helping you get the result that you want and are moving you closer to the goal that you want? Because a lot of people don't realize that their thoughts are completely optional.
Right.
So they've spent the last 5 years believing they can't have a career and a relationship. And now we've got to take the time to unpack that thought, see how it's not actually true, see how it's optional, and then start to retrain your brain to think something different that is going to serve you better in your life and in your relationship.
Yes. That's one of the things that I've been working on, trying to remind myself to ask myself or tell myself, maybe I'm wrong about this, or maybe I'm not 100% right about this, just give myself even is there a 10% chance that I don't exactly know what is exactly going to happen in the future? Is that possible?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it does what we were just talking about. It opens us, right? When I allow myself okay, so maybe I'm not 100% sure about this future story that I'm telling myself, then I can be a little bit more open. I have no idea what's about to happen. I don't know if I'm going to get used to this or if this is going to work out. So yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah. And you're exactly right. That idea of possibility and remaining open to the possibility is a big way that you overcome that resistance, because you don't necessarily want to try to convince yourself from one extreme to another, right? If you've spent your whole life believing that you are unworthy, it's going to be very difficult for you to jump straight to, I am worthy. But if you can open up that possibility and just entertain the thought, it's possible that I'm worthy, or it's possible that I have more worth than I ever realized, that at least helps move you closer in that direction.
Yeah. And you're so right about it really doesn't work. At least I haven't seen it really work yet to just try to jump from one extreme to the other. But I do see myself sometimes, and my clients too, and maybe your clients too, we have that star student mentality, right? And so we think we know the right answer. Oh, I hear myself saying I'm not worthy, but of course I'm worthy. So I am worthy. But if we don't really believe it, then we're just repeating and saying something and still not believing it.
Right.
So it's still not going to work out. Yeah.
No. And a lot of times it has the opposite effect, because you try to tell yourself something that you don't believe, and your brain is like, yeah, that's definitely not true. And a lot of times then your brain will just double down on that.
Right. This kind of coaching is so valuable for anyone, whether or not they're calling someone in or whether or not they're dating. I mean, just the idea of seeing possibilities and being open and not knowing for sure 100% what's going to happen in the future. I think it's really helpful.
Absolutely.
Do you have anything else that you want to share about your clients or your practice or just you in general?
I've been doing this work for 5 years now. I always say that I was my first client. And I think this is true for a lot of coaches, right? We end up coaching people who are just like we used to be. So I think it's important for people to know that we're not born knowing this stuff. And for most of us, we don't have the perfect example of a relationship growing up. And even if we do have that example, that may not be the relationship that we end up wanting. And so there's a lot of things that are required in order to attract and maintain a healthy relationship that nobody ever teaches us. And so I like for my clients to know that I've been in the exact same space that they are, because I didn't know this stuff either.
Yeah.
And I think that takes away some of the embarrassment and the shame and the guilt that people feel about the fact that they're 35, 40, and have never had a successful relationship. Even though they can run a successful company, they're raising successful children, they're having success in all these other areas of their life. It doesn't make sense why they're not having success in their relationships. And so I like people to know that it's not something that we just have automatically. and that I've been where they are too. And I know it's possible. I mean, if I can get from where I was to here, then I know anybody can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you're so right that we do have a tendency to say, I should know this, or this shouldn't be a problem for me. This shouldn't be what's happening to me, but it is, right?
Yeah.
And you shouldn't know it because you don't know it. You're right. No one ever taught us some of the stuff, or even if we had it modeled for us, that wasn't maybe our own personal experience as we went through young adulthood and into our lives. So yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And it's a lot more common than you think. I think that this is the kind of thing like infidelity, right? When it happens to you, you think, I'm the only person on the planet that this has ever happened to. Or you think this only happens to people who are complete train wrecks in their life, in their marriage, right? Because nobody's ever posting on social media, hey, my husband or wife had an affair. Like, this is not stuff that we talk about.
Right.
And same with relationships. People aren't advertising on social media how dysfunctional their relationships are. Even people who have dysfunctional relationships are posting pictures and things on social media about how perfect and wonderful everything is. So it's easy to imagine that everyone else has it figured out except for you. But I promise you they don't.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a good reminder for any area of our lives. If it's relationship or career or money management or whatever, we probably tend to look at other people and compare ourselves to what our brain tells us and not what is reality. Oh, they've got it figured out. Oh, they are lucky. Oh, they don't have any, problems in this area. How would we possibly know? So yeah, we're not alone. It's more likely, statistically probable, that there are many people in exactly our same shoes than not.
Yep, 100%.
The way we met, because of the Valentine's Day event coming up, is because one of my side passions is journaling. So I've got to ask, are you a journal lover? Are you journal curious? Are you a non-journaler?
I do journal and I encourage my clients to do it, but we do it in a really specific way, because what I've found with some of my clients, with most of my clients actually, is that if I don't give them a specific structure for how to journal, what they end up doing is just reinforcing the stories that their brains are telling them that are not helpful. So they're writing down all of these thoughts that they're having, and all that's doing is just re-emphasizing and reinforcing those thoughts rather than encouraging them to actually question those thoughts and whether or not they're true and whether or not they're serving them. So I do journal and I do encourage my clients to journal, but we do it in a little bit more of a formulated, structured way.
Yeah. So do you teach them that structure, or
I do.
Is it something like a 3-step thing that you could say now, or should we send people to you to find out the structure?
I mean, I can tell you what it is, but you also probably want to come to me to actually make sure you're doing it right.
Okay,
because
if we could just get the high level, that'd be great.
Yeah. So basically what they do is they do what is called a thought download. I didn't come up with that. That came from my mentor, Brooke Castillo.
Yes, my mentor as well. I've talked about doing thought downloads on this podcast. So yes.
Yep. So they choose a specific topic, and like their ex-boyfriend or the guy they just had a first date with, they write down all of the thoughts that they have about that topic without editing yourself, without judging yourself, without trying to write the thing that you think you're supposed to write. Just write it all out, but they write each thought on a different line with a T in front of it. And so after they do that for 5-10 minutes, just getting it out, all out on the paper, then they go back through each one and really look at each thought individually and ask themselves, can I see how this is not true or false? And can I see how this thought is optional? And then at some point later in the program, they also start looking at what feelings is this thought creating for me? What actions is this thought prompting me to take? And are those the feelings and the actions that I want?
Oh, I love it. So basically it's self-coaching in journaling form.
Yep, exactly.
So helpful. So good. Okay. So yes, if anyone didn't catch that or needs more information, You can definitely reach out to Melissa to be walked through that because that is such a great journaling practice.
Absolutely.
What about any other favorite self-development topics or practices? Do you have anything else that you either do yourself and or recommend to your clients?
One thing I'm really trying to do, and this also has translated into my clients' work, is setting aside specific time each day for specific tasks, especially the tasks that tend to be time sucks.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I'll tell myself, I'm just going to get on Facebook and see if anybody's responded to my post. And then 2 hours later, I'm still down the rabbit hole and I never even checked to see if somebody responded to my post. So, I'm really trying to be more intentional about deciding these are the hours during the day that I'm going to be on social media. And outside of those hours, there is no social media.
Yeah.
And I was actually just talking about this in my group program, the Relationship Reset, because they're moving into the part of the program now where they're going to start dating again. And a lot of them have busy career schedules. Some of them are raising children on their own. They have a lot of other things going on. And so one of the things that I encourage them to do is to set aside a specific amount of time each day. And that's the only time they spend on dating apps. That's the only time they spend swiping. It's the only time they spend responding to people, because otherwise it starts to consume your life. And the more it starts to consume your life, the less intentional you are being about it, right? Because that's when you end up like half watching TV and half paying attention to who you're swiping on. And before you know it, your app is filled up with guys that are not even husband material. So limiting the time that you spend and being very intentional about how you're spending that time is really helpful in any area of your life.
That's what I was just thinking as you were describing it, because I can see that that is so helpful in being intentional about what we eat, being intentional about what we buy or bring into our homes, right? Be intentional about how we exercise, because if we are, I mean, I used to exercise with a friend and then we wanted to chit chat and catch up, and so then of course the exercise was still good, but it wasn't as good as it could be if we were really focused on it, so I see that same application in so many different areas. That's really good.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the same as when they say, if you're trying to lose weight, stop eating in front of the TV.
Yeah.
Because then you're being very intentional about what you're putting in your mouth and how much you're putting in your mouth. And, it's much easier to pay attention to what you're doing.
Yeah. And, I enjoy TV. I know that sometimes it gets a bad rap, but lately I can think of some shows that I've just really gotten really deep into and just enjoyed so much. And I love going on to the online forum afterwards and doing the whole after show discussion, and I think to myself, when I am doing other things while I'm watching TV, I'm kind of depriving myself even of that entertainment time. Because I'm splitting my attention. So yeah, I think it applies to everything. That's so good. What about, do you have a mantra?
I just always try to remind myself that the universe has my back and that I have my own back. And those two things have been very, very helpful for me in anything that I'm doing, because anytime I start to feel that resistance, anytime I start to question myself or doubt myself or wonder if I'm doing the right thing or doing it the right way, I'm just like, you know what? It doesn't matter. Like, there is no right way. The universe has always had my back.
Yeah.
The universe has always brought me the right people at the right time and given me exactly what I need. And I know that I have my own back. And when I say that, what I really mean is I trust myself to only think nice things about myself. So even if I put on a webinar that no one comes to, I know that I have my own back, and that I'm not going to go to this place of like, you're stupid. This was terrible. Nobody wants what you have. This is never going to work. Everybody hates you, right?
Yeah.
Like, I trust myself to only think nice things about myself and things that make me feel good about myself and serve me, regardless of what's happening in my life.
Yeah.
And that has made a huge difference in my willingness to take risks and do things that are scary and do things that are uncomfortable, because I know I have my own back.
Oh, that is such a good reminder. And I think if we all just decided, I'll always have my own back, if I wouldn't say it to my best friend, I'll never say it to myself,
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's so good. Okay. Now I'm going to look for places in my life where I can tell myself and remind myself that I've got my own back. That's really good. Well, let's
Yeah.
talk about the Valentine dinner that is coming up here. How many times have you done this now, or what number is this?
This is the second one.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so give us an overview in case anyone is like, okay, what are they talking about? What kind of thing is this?
Yeah. So this is called the Virtual Valentine's Day Dinner Party. It's on February 10th from 5 to 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. I know that sounds like a long time to be on Zoom, but it's super fun and it actually goes by really fast.
Okay.
So we have 8 speakers, including myself and Bex.
Yay.
And they are really, really amazing speakers. They're super fun to listen to. Their topics are very unique. They're talking about things in a way that you've never heard them talked about before. And I did this very intentionally because I too get tired of hearing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
So every speaker speaks for 20 minutes, so you never get bored. We have over $2,500 in prizes that have been donated by the speakers to give away. So that's super fun. And you just grab your dinner, grab your drinks, log into the Zoom and hang out with us for 3 hours. And at the end of it, you're going to have some real actionable steps that you can take to improve your relationship with yourself and improve your relationship with other people, regardless of whether that's your partner, your mom, your friends, whoever.
I'm so excited about it.
It's so fun.
What everyone, all the other speakers and who's going to show up. So how can people get tickets, or do they need to get tickets in advance, or what's the story there?
Yeah. So tickets are $50, but we also have a buy one, get one half off deal. So if you and your friends sign up together, then you both get a little discount there. I think we can probably put the link to buy tickets in your show notes.
Absolutely.
So people can do that, or it's posted on my social media and it's probably posted on yours too.
It is. And just so that people know how they can find you, what is the best way for people to find you?
Yeah. So my website is www.lovestartsherecoach.com. You can also find me on Instagram. It's melissasnow.lovestartshere.
Nice. So the tagline or the brand is Love Starts Here.
Yeah, that's the name of my company.
That's so awesome. So your website is lovestartsherecoach.com.
Yep.
So easy. Okay. That is amazing. Yes. Well, is there anything else that I should have asked you, or that you want to circle back to that we didn't talk about yet?
I think the only thing that I would add, if there's anybody listening who has resistance when it comes to dating or relationships or getting close to someone, I know that happens a lot for women who have been hurt really badly in the past or who have been betrayed. It's really hard to get to that point where you're willing to open yourself up to that again. But I want anybody who's in that situation listening to know that love is and always has been available to you, but it starts with you. And so if there's anything that you need help with in terms of clearing up some of that resistance, the best thing that you can do is hire a coach, whether it's Bex, whether it's me, whether it's somebody else. Coaching is just, I don't know about you, I'm assuming you agree with me, but coaching is just the most powerful thing that I have found in my life. And I feel like I made more progress in the first 3 months of coaching than I did in 5 years of therapy before that. So I just encourage.
It's so good. It is so amazing.
It's so amazing. So I just encourage anybody who's listening who has resistance to love or dating or relationships or opening yourself up again to seek out a coach that you feel aligned with and let them help you, because your life will never be the same in all of the best ways.
I assume that your brand is very targeted towards women, and this event, the Valentine's Day event, is for women, right? Do you coach non-women as well?
I do not. No.
Okay, good to know. So based on what you just shared, and we're like, oh my God, we need that. Maybe we could make some referrals or find someone else because you're very targeted in who you work with.
Yep. But I also have a friend who graduated from the same life coach certification program that you and I did, and he is amazing. And he's who I refer all the men to.
Perfect. So problem solved right there. We've got you covered no matter who you are, no matter when you're listening. We've got a coach for you. I love that. Oh, that's so good. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. And I'm so excited to have a little Valentine's Day dinner with you on the 10th of February. And hopefully some of the listeners will be joining us.
I just am excited to see everybody on the 10th. It's going to be incredibly fun.
Okay, sounds good, Melissa. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Melissa, for coming on the podcast today. I really enjoyed talking with you and learning more about how you take care of your clients. I also am so excited for the Valentine's Day event that's coming up. So you can find out how you can join us at the show notes for this episode at bexb.org/Melissa. That's BEXB.org/MELISSA. And the one last thing that I want to remind you of is I am doing a behind the scenes tour of how you can create your own journal or notebook to either sell or give away. And if you want to do what I did, you could create an entire journal and notebook shop. So if you've been following me for a while, or if you know me, you might remember that this time last year, I did not have a journal and notebook shop. I launched it in the months of March and April of 2021, and within about 6 months, I had made a profit and had started selling journals and notebooks in person and online, and just having so much fun and getting custom orders. And a lot of people are wondering how to do this. Maybe you are even thinking, I could do this, or I have an idea for a journal or a notebook. I would love to open the back end of the shop and show you everything and answer all of your questions. So if this is something that you're interested in, go to the show notes for this episode at bexb.org/Melissa, and you can get a link to the behind the scenes tour. Otherwise, that is it for today. Thank you so much for listening. Hope to see you on the 10th for the virtual Valentine's Day dinner and on the 16th for the behind the scenes tour. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next episode. Bye-bye. This has been Release Your Resistance. Thank you for listening. If you like this podcast, make sure you're subscribed and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Also, think about someone who you know who would love this episode and share it with them. There should be a share button on your app if you're listening to this on your phone. If you'd like to continue this conversation one-on-one or in real time, come visit me on my site at bexb.org to see how we can work together.